It is the least explored continent, wrapped in beauty and mystery. Sometimes marked by cruelty and neglect, it is always a place of power and enduring mystique. It is Africa. Old civilizations in the heart of the continent left ruins that are as majestic as they are enigmatic. This is the Great Zimbabwe, ancient citadel of an ancient race. And not far away, the smoke that thunders, the Victoria Falls, one of the 7 wonders of the natural world. Peace came to Zimbabwe only a few years ago, after a decade and a half of ruinous war. It was a war that left behind its monuments as desolate as Great Zimbabwe, but not nearly as proud. The Elephant Hills Hotel overlooking the Zambezi River was once the haunt of the rich. Today it is again the preserve of buffalo and elephant. Below the Victoria Falls, named after the queen who once ruled over these dark dominions, lies the Gorge, 60 miles of one of the world's most tumultuous rapids. And it was to this place of desolation and grandeur that 2 Hollywood producers came with a story to tell, and a dream of how that story might be told.
Rapid 18 is...
Conrad and Lance Houle are no strangers to impossible terrain. They've shot movies in the most primitive regions of the Philippines and Mexico. But the Zambezi, that is another story entirely.
They can't find them.
Damned River tells the story of 4 adventure-seeking tourists who discover that beneath the gloss of the brochures, Africa has teeth, and they bite. They come to the Zambezi for the rapids they've heard are the most challenging in the world, but find themselves caught in the crossfire between their psychotic guide and an unscrupulous rival. How they survive the rapids, the discomfort, and the guide himself, without sacrificing their humanity, makes for riveting viewing.
Welcome to Zimbabwe.
The whitewaters of the Zambezi test the story's characters to the limit. But the river also stretched the producers further than they've ever gone before. After all, Deepest Africa isn't the backlot at Burbank, and reality holds more surprises than they've ever dreamt up on a word processor.
Really, the script is almost the easy part because, I mean, you go on Hollywood with a script about it takes place in Africa on the Zambezi River. They never heard of it, you know. I mean, what kind of producer is ever going to say, yeah, I'll do that?
No, in fact, most of them say, that's impossible. There's no way. Get out of here.
We had to find someone who was a little insane.
Yeah, so we found Lance.
We were shooting a film in Botswana, which is the neighbor here to Zimbabwe. And somebody said, you must take a look at Victoria Falls. They're a wonder of the world. And I came out here, and it was full rain season. And it was awesome, fantastic. And I remembered the script that had been pitched to me about going down the Zambezi River. And I said, well, this is the place. Now, I didn't bother to take the tour down, the commercial tour. I just looked from the bridge and said, yeah, I think we can make it here. When we arrived, it was a different story.
Like a dream come true. 7 glorious action-packed days on the mighty Zambezi. With your own highly skilled guide to ensure your safety and enjoyment. Jesus, what do we get ourselves into?
Good question. And it was one the producers asked themselves more than once. The nightmare began afresh every day of the shoot. Just to get the crew and cast and equipment into position in the Gorge was a major operation. And practice didn't seem to make it any easier either. Not all the hazards were natural. The crew had to negotiate a memento of the war, a minefield in which the location of only a scattering of mines was marked. First leg of each day's journey was by 4-wheel drive vehicle to the lip of the ravine. Next, the backbreaking descent into the gorge itself. It was a matter of essentials only. Some luxuries were, however, judged essential, like the director's chair, followed closely by its occupant, director Michael Schroeder. Often the whitewater didn't mark the end of the journey. There were days when the crew itself had to take to the water and navigate these treacherous rapids to the shooting positions. Safety procedures were followed rigorously. Experienced rafters kept constant watch for trouble throughout every critical exercise on the river. Initially, this was a hair-raising, sometimes frightening experience for the crew. But by the end of the shoot, most of them were themselves accomplished rafters. At times, though, it was impossible to descend on foot. Helicopters under the command of ex-Royal Air Force pilots ferried them in. It took up to 4 hours after dawn to move the 70-man crew with their tons of equipment down into the Batanka Gorge. Every ounce counted. Every day had to be meticulously planned, down to the last roll of gaffer tape.
When I first read the script, I was attracted to it when they told me we were going to shoot in Africa. And I think we've taken full advantage of the location. I always hoped that the film would have a rugged look. It wouldn't be a perfect, very smooth picture. And so with the rapids, the gorges, and so forth, I think we've accomplished that.
There were no shortcuts in the shooting of Damned River.
Normally, a Hollywood picture like this would go and shoot a few weeks on a hard river like this and then do the rest in a stage and maybe use some rear projection. In this particular picture, we are in the actual location where it happens. And this river itself had not had anybody go down it until 1981. And that's only a few years ago. So it has created an incredible logistical nightmare.
And the nightmare really dug its claws in on those days when the crew had to move downriver to their camera positions.
That's one.
Every item of equipment locked into its watertight barrel made the journey with them along the boiling Zambezi and up onto the perches they occupied for the shoot. The crew grew goat's feet and called this endless clambering along the rocks boulder hopping. By shoot's end, they were the world's acknowledged champion boulder hoppers.
Holy shit! I didn't say anything about this in the goddamn brochure. Listen, we gotta do something decisive.
It wasn't always easy to do the decisive thing down there in the Batanka. You can only shoot when the sun's dead overhead, blazing down into this crack in the African bedrock. And when the Zimbabwe sun's in its heaven, hell's not far away, unless you take a few entirely understandable precautions. Ice cream tastes different when the mercury hits 108 in the shade.
Every time you guys are rolling, I'm eating.
Michael, can I get you something else? Can I get you a chocolate one?
It's a hard shoot. It is really difficult, walking on these rocks all the time, up and down the mountains. Something I'm not used to. It's exciting.
One of the trickiest sequences in the movie calls for our 4 greenhorns to take a line through the rapids directly toward the first camera unit. There's no room for error and no time for maneuver.
Okay, cut him. You got.
To reshoot the sequence, the helicopters had to bring the actors and raft back to the only safe landing spot 1 mile upstream, which was quite far from the camera and crew.
24 frames on this one.
It looks great, but Schroeder is a perfectionist.
Reset, try it again. Dave, you have to stay lined up, but we don't have a shot.
These few words meant another hour and a half's wait before the cameras could roll again. Finally, Michael Schroeder was satisfied.
Siamese twins back on the seat. All right, try it again from the top.
This is my kind of movie. I like physical pictures, things that you can't shoot on a back lot in Burbank or Hollywood. I like reaching and trying to bring out the best in the crew and the actors and myself, really reach to make a more interesting and a more credible picture.
We'll do the 40 scene with the dragging the raft.
Every single frame of the picture has Schroeder's stamp on it.
Cut. Got it.
The way I like to direct, I have a style where I like to move the camera quite a bit. Not unmotivated, but I don't like sticky filming on sticks and cut. And it was real difficult flying dollies into the gorge or dollying while on the boat and stuff, but we devised some pretty interesting little apparatuses to slide the camera and still add movement in the frame, and it still has that style that I like to have in my pictures.
What the hell are you doing back there, Jerry? I said lift. I am lifting, God damn it! Oh! Sit with him. Come on, guys, stay cool. Stay cool?
In Los Angeles, if I wanted to bring a Steadicam guy in for one day, no problem. I call him up, he shows up. Here, I have to make sure he has a permit, the proper passport, can be flown up to Zimbabwe. I mean, it takes 3 weeks, so you can't make any decisions on a whim.
Every picture depends on its crew, of course. But it's no exaggeration to say that in Damned River, the quality of the technicians was critical.
Well, I think the crew is very good. They're a little inconvenienced by the lack of some equipment. The spirit's real good. The people here are great. They're trying hard to keep up with my vision. And I'm generally very pleased with them.
But survival was also high on the list of each of the actors and each of the crew. The Batanka played no favorites, and the Zambezi doesn't know what mercy is.
There was one scene that came to me while we were filming, when we were going down the river with the rafters, the expert oarsmen. They would explain each rapid as they would go into it. And they were very visual with their hands and so forth. And so it came to me, why don't we, instead of just shooting a rapid and shooting Ray explain the rapid, let's intercut them.
Drift down to the bottom of this corridor with the back end of the boat towards Zimbabwe. We're going to swivel around and back in behind Indicator Rock, pulling back towards Zambia. We're going to shoot down the middle of the Green Highway. You're going to have a big burst of water coming in on us.
Michael wanted to cut this scene back and forth between Ray chasing Carl and the raft flipping with Luke and Ann going through the rapids. And he asked me to intercut the two in a fairly short manner, like back and forth, back and forth. I tried it and I didn't think it worked, but I was doing it not as short as he had planned. He asked, when we got together, he said, okay, let's make every cut 1 foot. And I said, well, that's a little arbitrary, isn't it, 1 foot? I usually like to feel the cuts, just the pacing of it. I like to feel it. I said, no, let's just try it at 1 foot.
This wasn't the sort of picture where the stars hung out in luxury motorized homes. It wasn't the sort of picture where the stars enjoyed 5-star meals. In fact, if there'd been any prima donnas around at the start of the shoot, they wouldn't have lasted long.
Oh, what do you expect us to do? Just sit there like fools? That's exactly what I expected you to do. Sit there like the damn fools that you are.
We had to leave. These guys were after us.
What? No, it's true. Those guys we saw before coming across the river, they almost surprised us. Where's your idiot friend? He's out there in the river somewhere.
Some of the actors chose to do their own stunts.
That was simple. It was acting all the way, not a struggle involved. I was scared to death. That was great. Woo! That was much more intense than the other day, I have to say. Did you see my life jacket? It was way up here, and I had it completely tight. You're just praying. You go under, and you know you're going to come up eventually, and you just pray that when you do get up, you're going to have that 1 second of air and not water, you know? That the waves are going to come onto you, so it's like, ooh. Intense.
But it wasn't all intense.
So what'd you see out there?
Well, whatever's out there's got trouble if it tries messing with old River Rat Ray. Who? River Rat Ray.
In fact, the tougher the circumstances, the more jokes the cast and crew cracked together. Humor was an outlet, a welcome release.
I guess so. I wish I knew what the movie was about, though, you know?
Go to the theater, you'll love it.
And by the last days of the shoot, people were proud of themselves. This was more than just a picture. It was an endurance race. And everyone involved had proved that they could endure. They made it together.
The other Olympic athletes are crippled.
And so, at last, the nightmare is over. For the characters who found themselves adrift on the river of their lives, and for a production team that emerges from the Batanka with a sense of reprieve, there has, after all, been a stay of execution.